Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Max Voltage Mining and Crypto. I am Max Voltage, and today we have the second segment from the Daniel Keller interview where we talk about mining and all things mining. Talk about proof of useful work. We talk about the merge and what mining is going to be like at that point. So without further ado, here's the interview. All right, let's get into mining a little bit. We all know that the merge is coming. And one of the things that I've been having discussions with people in the community about is, guys, you don't have to mine in order to support a project. There's lots of ways to support a project. And in fact, there's probably a point at which additional hash rate probably doesn't help. I'm curious on your thoughts on that as far as, do you have an ideal amount of hash rate, or is more hash rate always better?
Give me all the hash all the time. And I'll tell you why. We're always thinking of what the next iteration of proof of work is. And as a matter of fact, we're going to have an AMA with Ergo because Ergo is the red side, we're the green side. And really, they're the two logical projects that are kind of the heir apparents. I think you'll probably see some shitcoin pop up in between here and there that's going to try to make a run, fork of Ethereum, and you'll see a lot of the ASICs go there because of, Ethereum's ASIC.
No other place to go. Yeah.
Yeah. But the goal for me is to get as much hash as humanly possible, because as we start moving toward proof of useful work, that all becomes really important. So, people ask me about this all the time. Is Flux the heir apparent to ETH? And I said, no. We're not the next ETH, we're the first Flux. And, what we're going to do with your hash is going to look different than what, ETH has done with you. And by the way, we love our miners. You know what I mean? We are where we are today because we built a community of decentralized miners, and they support our nodes. I'd say the majority of the people that mine also run nodes. You talk about ways to support the project, we're right there, So, to me, I think that we're definitely going to vie to be, the next in line. I think you'll see probably Flux and Ergo and Raven might fall in there. And, I don't know if I don't even know what Ethereum Classic is doing anymore. But, we support proof of work projects. So wherever everybody lands, I think it's good for the ecosystem. And to all the people out there that are, because I see it's already started, man. I got to sell my graphics cards because, ETH is going away. Delayed return on investment, folks, right? Mine at a loss. It works. Like when I tell people that, it kind of blows their mind. It's saying, well, you're spending your fiat to accumulate the asset. Well, Flux was 3 cents at one point, and I mined at a loss. I had to get that dirty fiat and pay for that, electric, because, miners who have been in the space long enough, they understand delayed ROI. But there are new folks who are just now coming into it, or came into it, like say in 2020 or 2019, and they're in this like first cycle. We need to be able to explain that to them and tell them it's like, look, you're going to look at it and you're going to get grossed out, because at some point you're going to be not covering what you're doing. But in the long run, if you're supporting projects that make sense, then you're putting yourself in a position. So when that project surges, right? Flux went up to $4. There was a lot of people that, they didn't take their nodes down. They didn't give a shit because it's way under what everyone knows it will be in the end. So delayed return on investment, folks.
Now, would it rather if people mined it versus just buying Flux?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, because if you mine into it, you're supporting the ecosystem, right? So, you can buy it too. I've bought Flux. I'm exchanged. I am an arbitrage monster, right? I love to play arbitrage. I like to go out there and find those deals, because sometimes these centralized exchanges, they don't always work together real well. So, I loved arbitrage Flux, especially in the early days. I was catching 50% swings sometimes when things would happen. Yeah, it was crazy. It was pretty crazy.
So my situation, mining, right? So my electric rate's just stupid high. So right now I have everything off, just because I would rather, full transparency, mining Ethereum pretty much like everybody else, just to get money to swap into Flux for creating nodes and all that stuff. But yeah, my electricity is so high that my bill is like over $3,000 a month. It's insane. So if I am getting only 2 Ethereum, that's worth like $1,000 a piece. I'd rather just buy what I want to buy instead of spending an extra $1,000 on top of, you know, mining at a loss. I mean, it just makes sense to me. So if anybody's out there thinking like, you know, mine at a loss or buy, I mean, I would say either way is supporting the project. Just make sure you're not financially burdening yourself in the process. You know what I mean? That bad.
Yeah, the other thing you have to take into consideration too is, did you spend the money on the hardware?
Right.
Has the hardware returned its investment back to you?
That's very
and if
true.
it has, if it has and it's covered it, then keep mining. What the fuck? You know, you have nothing to lose. So, you know, I think a lot of people are gonna like go through this learning. Like the day that ETH goes proof of stake, everybody's just gonna freak out because they're not. You know, you'll see hash here, hash there. They'll be bumping projects. This project goes up. This project, and it's great. And you know what? That is great for the ecosystem too, because it'll introduce new miners to new projects, and it just bolsters proof of work. So I think I am happy ETH is finally gone. I mean, it's like been 5 years approximately since our very first started talking about some type of proof of stake, and it's finally gonna. I think it's finally gonna give way to some really solid projects who have just did nothing. I mean, you know, you guys were talking before we went live. You guys were talking about like, you know, you didn't hear about Flux. You heard about Flux, but what did you really hear about Flux? You know, you didn't know about it. You should have looked into it. Didn't look into it. Whatever. We did all that on purpose. You know, we didn't have marketing and PR for the first 3 years of the project. You know, we literally just hired our, you know, chief marketing officer and started to partner with our marketing company. So, and we did that for a reason. We wanted not a minimal viable project. We wanted a developed ecosystem, because when you develop the ecosystem, I call it the rabbit hole, right? Somebody says, hey, check this out about Flux. And you start reading about it and you're like, well, that's pretty interesting. And the next thing you know, you're reading about something else. The next thing you know, like, holy shit.
How I felt
and you
when
do
I
this,
listened to the hobbyist. I was just like, everything you guys talked about, I was like, God damn, this is so interesting. And like you said, you were like, you know, at one point you were like, I want to say thank you to Ethereum for taking so long, because it gave us the proper amount of time to prepare for all of this. And I was like, man, this guy is killing it, just absolutely killing it. Yeah,
and it did, and they really put us in a good position.
Oh, for sure.
Because we were so small and we were kind of under the radar and we were building the technology. Now we took the problem that ETH had, is how do you scale? Because that's really ultimately their problem. Scale appropriately. And we looked at it from, you know, in the reverse. We said, we're going to build it so we can scale on demand. And that's exactly what we did. As a matter of fact, with our node halvening, we went from like 2,000 nodes to 12,000 nodes. And everybody's like, holy shit, how did that happen? What happened? Because we planned it that way and we built it that way. So, you know, you can have both sides of the network, and you can basically increase the footprint exponentially. Somebody in the chat said earlier, they said 40,000 nodes is what our target should be. And I'm telling you, not by the end of this year, but maybe next year, especially once our Cirrus nodes are deployed, 40,000 nodes is very realistic, especially with our Cirrus launch with, you know, edge compute and AI. So I think you could see Flux there, and I've called it right every time. I mean, when I called like 12,000 at the halvening, got it. You know, I really think that I think we can be with Cirrus and with Titan. I think we could be at 40,000 nodes.
I mean, yeah, Cirrus is only going to be 5 Flux as a requirement, right?
That's it. That's it.
That's crazy. So that's coming out what, in like Q3, Q4? Is that what it said?
I'll target in Q4. So it's kind of, so there's some pieces that all have to happen together. So, you know, Titan has to be deployed. Our persistent storage has to be deployed. And as persistent storage is done, Thunder is done. So now we have our storage nodes. We have a place to store stuff. We have our compute, a place to compute things. We have Titan, which now allows us to pretty much scale on demand, right? In both in Web 2 and Web 3. And then along comes the Cirrus node, which allows anyone, I call it the world's biggest test net, for 5 Flux, you can deploy a node, you go through the process, you deploy the node, right? And as people use your computational resources on the Cirrus platform, because that's off chain, it's not tied to block rewards, you're making money by what they're paying. So if you're on the network and your node's being used for AI or edge compute or whatever, you're going to be incentivized by the folks that are using it. So it really creates a marketplace for compute.
So is Cirrus going to be like something you're going to deploy on like just your home PC, or is it going to be similar to the way that the current nodes are, whether it be a Pi or what?
So there'll be benchmarks just the same. They will not be anywhere close to what our enterprise benchmarks are. So because remember, one of the big things we want to do is deploy these in developing economies, right? So you're going to see these, we've partnered with the University of Geneva in Switzerland to start working on proof of useful work. So these are all pieces. We want to get these in the hands of students. We want to get them in the hands of people that, want to learn and deploy and naturally kind of gravitate. So like they deploy their Cirrus node, they're running it, it's functioning. Okay, now I want to move up to the next level, and I'll move up to, and down
the gateway drug into the Flux node network system.
Yeah, and the nice thing about it is you're getting paid to do it. And if you have a Raspberry Pi or a Jetson or an FPGA chilling in the corner somewhere, it's all about evergreen compute, and that's exactly what we're working on. Is I tell people this all the time, and they look at me like I got bugs crawling on my eyes. Flux will be carbon negative. And they're like, how does that even possible? It's not possible. You're a proof of work project. It is possible because proof of useful work will allow us to take compute resources that would have had to been purchased somewhere else. So if a university had to buy 30 GPUs to do rendering, they no longer have to do that. Those 30 GPUs are already on the network, and when they need to come off the network and they need to do proof of useful work, they'll be deployed, they'll come back again. The people that are running those cards never know they left, but they go out, they come back. So it really, it's just an awesome way to really kind of evergreen technology and kind of push everything together.
Cool. Yeah, so you're talking about proof of useful work. What is the timing of that, and what is that going to look like? In other words, is it going to stay on the same algorithm? Is it going to be kind of like I don't want to say a profit switch. I don't mean it that way, but as far as something that will switch algos when it's instructed to, what's that looking like at this point?
I think the thing you have to think about is proof of use work is not being built for Flux. It's being built for blockchain, right? So we're going to open source this thing. We're going to give it to anybody that wants to run. Let's say there's another network that would like to deploy the proof of useful work algorithm. They can do that. Our ultimate goal is to even set across the board, and whether you're running an AMD or whether you're running a NVIDIA, it's the same. And it allows you to basically use your compute, your compute. You said profit switching, which is kind of cool because that actually conceptually is kind of what it looks like, right? It looks at, except the profit switching isn't going to the most profitable asset, it's going to the most profitable work model, right? So if you have somebody that's willing to pay, they need to render they have a deep fake, and they need to basically prove that the deep fake is not fake. Well, if you've ever created or seen somebody create a deep fake, it takes a shit ton of rendering power. But even more than that, to prove that it's a deep fake takes a lot more than that. So let's hypothetically say somebody needs that compute resources and they lock it up. You're getting a premium for that. So it looks a little bit like that profit switching, but instead of actually switching algos or moving to a different coin or something like that, you're actually using useful work cases.
So you're saying basically then would Equihash will go away when this comes around, or will again be switch? Will go away. Okay,
yeah, it will go away. Yep, there'll be a completely new algorithm that's built around it. So it may be a modified version to do what we need it to do. But again, and number one, we will always be ASIC resistant. We will always be FPGA resistant. We always have the miners at heart. We're GPU mined and always will be. So, I always get somebody freaked out when they hear me say the word FPGA. The Cirrus nodes can run FPGAs, but the on-chain will always be miners and node ops.
So, but no chance this is going to coincide with the merge? Proof of useful work?
I think you're going to see the first version of our testnet probably Q4. So
Okay, cool.
depends on whether or not ETH shits the bed. If they do, then you might see it. So I don't know. But we're going to take it slow, and we want to make sure we bring in good shareholders with us as well. You know, people that want. I mean, this isn't just a few people. This is a lot of people working and a lot of businesses working on this, because this really affects their business models. So
Nice.
as much as NVIDIA hates miners, we buy a lot of cards, right? And as much as AMD hates miners as well, kind of, they're a little bit, you know,
More indifferent.
they're like, they're more indifferent, but they have a big problem. And they have some serious heavy duty FPGAs that they developed, and they need a way to deploy it. And if they can't deploy it to mine or something like that, they got to figure out something different. So I could see us working with them as well.
I hope you enjoyed the interview regarding Flux and mining with Daniel Keller. And we will have at least one more segment, which will be on parallel assets, coming out later this week. So again, hope you enjoyed the interview. If you did, please hit the like button. I'd love to hear the comments about the video, as well as if you do like this kind of content, please hit the subscribe button. It's very much appreciated. All right, guys, have a good day, and we will see you later.